This will be the Burlington County Fire Chiefs Association's first annual Fire and EMS Awards program. And we're going to be covering 3 years of awards. As you know, with COVID, there hasn't been an opportunity to recognize people who deserve recognition. So that's why we're here tonight. A little bit of housekeeping before we get going. Exits are to the rear, and you can go straight out after you exit there, or you have exits on either side here. Okay? If you did not receive a program, I don't know if we ran out of programs or not. I think we had enough, but if not, we have QR codes on the walls. You can download the program. We're also going to have it up on the screen. It'll be up there for a little bit, so you certainly have an opportunity to download it there. Restrooms are to the rear and to the right, both male and female. We are under a severe thunderstorm watch right now with the possibility of tornadoes. That is unusual, as you know, for this part of the country. And with a gathering this large tonight, we do not want to be in this auditorium should we get a tornado warning. If we get a tornado warning, we will stop the program. We will ask everybody to exit to the rear, go left, and then your first right. And we will open up all the interior classrooms for you to take shelter in. That's a what if. We hope we don't have to do it, but we did want to cover that for tonight. Refreshments are also available in the back, and that is to support the Citizen Band Booster Association. So please feel free to grab some snacks, some water. I think they have some candy and so forth back there to support the Band Booster Association. At this time, I'd like to ask anybody in the military or has been in the military to please stand and be recognized. Don't be shy, people. And I actually forgot the most important thing. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Bill Kramer. I'm Chief of Citizen Fire, but I'm also the President of the Burlington County Fire Chiefs Association. For awardees, people who will be called up tonight, you will be called up by name. We will ask that you come down, wherever you're sitting, you come down this aisle. You take a position in front of the table here. That'll give your relatives an opportunity to come on down. They can jump in between the seats here. They can take pictures while we're reading why you're getting your award. Once we're done that, you will be issued your certificate, and then or your commendation, whatever it is, unit citation, and then we'll ask you to go left and exit, go to the right, your left, and exit that way. At this time, I'm going to ask Chief Burnett to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. For those of you who are in uniform, please prepare to stand and don your covers if you have them with you. For those of you who are not in uniform or do not have covers, please place your right hand over your heart. Okay, because this is the first time we're doing this, so we're going to take a break on that. I'm going to ask for the presentation of colors. I skipped that. So we're going to have the presentation of colors right now. Remember my instructions, though, because we're going to ask you to do that after the colors are presented. Presentation of colors, please. I would ask now that you join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Present. Oh.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Oh.
would ask that you remain standing for our invocation. At this time, I would like to ask Reverend Tucker of the Christ Church Parish of Burlington to say a few words.
Let us pray. Almighty God, the protector of all who call upon your name, we thank you for bringing us together this evening and for this opportunity to gather together to honor those who have accomplished much in their communities. You have shown us, O Lord, in the example of your saints, that valor is a virtue, and you have bestowed upon so many in attendance this evening, and especially those we are here to celebrate, the gift of courage, of knowing fear and going anyway, and the gift of knowing that there is no greater love than giving up one's life in service and devotion, and in the giving of the last full measure of devotion for the good of others. Grant to us, O Lord, that we, being encouraged by their example, may leave here with strengthened hearts and steadfast wills to do the work you have given us to do. We pray you, O Lord, to guard and cherish, protect and visit all our personnel, military, police, and first responders, that they may have a sense of your abiding presence in every situation they face. May we celebrate this evening with honor and return to our homes in peace. We ask all of this in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. Please remain standing. At this time, we would like to pause for a moment of silence to remember, pay tribute to the emergency services community we have lost who served on the front lines in response to COVID-19 pandemic. Research shows through the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation that approximately 181 firefighter EMTs and 78 emergency medical care providers, and I'm sure it's more than that, have died since the start of the pandemic. Please join me as we pause for a moment of silence.
Color guard, retire to colors.
Aye. Hey. Forward, on, everyone. Everyone. Everyone.
You may be seated. So before we get into our program, we have a number of invited guests that we would like to introduce tonight, and we want to thank them for taking the time out of their busy schedule to join us on this important evening. I'm going to start with the legislators from the 7th Legislative District, Assemblyman Carol Murphy. I don't know if Carol made it here yet or not. And Assemblyman Herb Conaway, who also serves as the Director of the Burlington County Health Department. From the 8th Legislative District, Senator Gene Stanfield. And Assemblyman Brian Rumpf. Burlington County Board of Commissioners, Commissioner Balbir Singh. Deputy Director Thomas Pullian. Did Tom make it tonight? No. And Director of Public Safety, Director of the Board of Commissioners and the Public Safety Liaison, Daniel O'Connell. The Burlington County Public Safety Director and a good friend of mine, Gary Gubby. Sitting next to him is our County Fire Marshal, Bob Carr. Director of the Burlington County Emergency Services Training Center, Howard Black. The President of the Burlington County EMS Chiefs Association, Danny Norman. He must have got tied up at work because I know he didn't make it tonight yet. When he walks in, we'll certainly introduce him. A member of our Cinnaminson Board of Fire Commissioners, Frank Ellising. And the Mayor of Cinnaminson Township, the Honorable Stephanie Crable.
At this time, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker. Chief Dennis L. Ruben, fire and rescue experience spans more than 35 years of public service. He has served in several cities as a line firefighter EMT, company officer, staff officer, and in the command officer ranks. He has served as the chief of department in both Atlanta, Georgia, and in Washington, D.C. Chief Ruben has served as the president of the Virginia Fire Chiefs Association and has served on several committees with the International Association of Fire Chiefs. He is the current chair of the Wingspread Fire and Emergency Services National Strategic Planning Conference. Chief Ruben's educational accomplishments include a master's degree in operational leadership from Waldorf University, a bachelor's of science degree in fire administration from the University of Maryland. He is a graduate of the National Fire Academy's Executive Fire Officer Program and the Naval Postgraduate School's Executive Leadership course in Homeland Security. His teaching credentials are noteworthy. Chief Ruben is a popular lecturer at local, state, national, and international venues. He is an active adjunct faculty member at the National Fire Academy, teaching leadership, operations, firefighter safety, and incident command programs. He has authored several note textbooks entitled Rube's Rules for Survival, DC Fire, and It's Always About Leadership. His fourth title is Choosing to Command and is due to be released late 2022. He has 3 wonderful children and 4 amazing grandchildren, with a 5th on the way. I would like to call to the podium now Chief Dennis Ruben.
Let me start off by saying what an honor and privilege, and thanks to everyone from the Burlington County Fire Chiefs to allow me to be here with you tonight. What a great day in a great community for a great reason. Yes or no? Yes. I think to take time out of your schedule to acknowledge the work of our EMTs, our firefighters, our paramedics is worthy of asking you to join with me for a standing ovation, please. Everybody, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. appreciate all that you do for the community, and of course, we're gonna ask you to continue. And I would dare take a page right out of Tom Peters' book, the book that describes In Search of Excellence. One of the monikers of an organization that reaches excellence is to take time to recognize their people, and boy, you guys are doing it first class tonight. A quick story, I was born in Washington, D.C. I was raised in Washington, D.C., and I got to work there. What an honor, what a pleasure, to say the least. You're welcome to hold it against me, especially on days when we have sporting competitions. Fair enough? I'm just going to share with you a few minutes out of a video clip that I am peacock proud over. Oh, wait a minute, that's St. Peter's. To say the least, about my fire department, the District of Columbia. It's a full-length movie. I'm not going to share that with you, but we had one of the Discovery Channel groups with us for 11 days to put together what you see. It's live, up front, close and impersonal, a day in the life of a Washington, D.C. firefighter.
The calls flooding, hundreds a day. Fire. They've just struck the third alarm. The crews rush out, ready for the worst.
We had a person that was struck by a train.
This is DC Fire and Emergency Medical Services, Washington's front line against disaster. Like you've never seen it before. Danger is part of the job.
This fire was a fire right there.
And the challenge is to keep people alive. From inside this complex operation, this fearless force battles calamity. Day and night. Standing of excitement is contagious. And the clock is always ticking. Washington, D.C., center of the world's most powerful nation. And home to D.C. Fire and Emergency Medical Services. One of the busiest emergency response departments in North America. On a typical day, this force of more than 2,200 fire, rescue, and emergency medical personnel rush to more than 400 calls. And these guys get there fast. Within 2 to 3 minutes, one of the best response times in the nation. That's because DC Fire and EMS has the highest density of fire halls of any fire department in the U.S. 33 stations packed into the 109 square kilometers of the District of Columbia. And at the center of it all is Washington's 911 call center. This is the brains of the operation. A team of trained call takers and dispatchers working with a sophisticated computer dispatch program that selects the best and fastest response for each incident.
That was the problem. Tell me exactly what happened.
Real bad taste of us, nothing.
Alita Humphreys is one of 20 responders who handle panicked calls when they come in. Depending on the type of call, Alita runs through a predetermined set of questions that provide critical information of the incident. Demetrius Vlasopoulos is Deputy Chief Information Officer at DC Fire and EMS, and the department's expert on the 911 dispatch program.
They follow the protocol and they determine the level of fire and EMS response you need.
Is the pain above your belly button? Yes.
Based on the answers, the computer program selects an emergency response package and identifies the closest available units to be sent to the incident. The information is then transferred to one of the center's dispatchers.
Okay.
Within seconds, Levere Cruz reviews the package, then broadcasts it electronically and verbally.
Let's take place to respond, tell me John Lopez, target six.
The dispatcher verbalizes the response from the dispatch radio channel and everybody hears it.
The dispatch information also goes to electronic message boards at fire halls and inside emergency vehicles.
You push a button first, the data goes out, goes in the airway and through the local area network.
incident triggers a bigger response. Like the call coming in now.
I can see an apartment building on fire around my area. Northwest 16.
It takes only a minute for the computer to come up with a response package and leave crews to dispatch it.
Truck 3, Truck 9, Rescue Squad, Ambulance 9 is on report of apartment fire.
Alarm sounds at Chinatown Express. Home of Engine 2 is downtown in the heart of DC's Chinatown. It's one of the region's busiest fire halls. Fire crews leap into action. Meanwhile, at the 911 center, more calls about the incident flood in.
Police, fire, ambulance.
Fire! The woman with the word I heard the fire from the house, I said, teacher park is on fire.
As additional information is gathered from subsequent 911 callers for the same event, those tidbits of information are very important.
Apartment 907. Everything is on fire.
No matter how panicked the caller, it's Alina's job to stay calm. Other 911 workers use satellite imagery to gather additional details, like the layout of the building and its height, so firefighters know exactly what they're facing. All this information is relayed electronically to the response team. Arriving now. Just minutes after the alarm was called, the first unit gets to the fire and is met by a wall of flame. Battalion Chief Wayne Benson commands the first response.
That was the door to the fire department was left open, set the fire, and all the heat smoke coming through the public hallway.
The open door allowed the fire to spread into the rest of the building. More help is needed. From the 911 center, dispatcher Revere raises a second alarm.
Engines 916.
Calling for more engines and an EMS crew to head to the scene. This man needs to know.
Is it occupied?
Chief Dennis Ruben, top dog of the DC Fire, and
All right, so when you decide to find the nerve center on your televisions with a big bowl of popcorn, when that face shows up, just say, I know that guy. Fair? So as you can tell, I'm very proud. But to get back to the structured program, I wanted to be able to leave everyone, and especially our firefighters, our emergency medical technicians, our paramedics, with a thought as they leave here. And I came up with what I would describe as several really important, if you will, behaviors that we would like for you to follow, that I would like for you to follow. Hopefully you've got a handout, you're going to take it home, stick it on that refrigerator, and reflect on it once in a while. There's dozens upon dozens upon dozens of leadership books out there, but I tried to be able to put together as an aggregate the ones that I think are most important and for you to consider. The first lesson I'd like to talk about is to help make your team successful, and let's see why. I had a chance to try to burn down the White House. I had a chance to try to burn down your White House, and I was invited back. We went to a third alarm in the old executive office building, which is connected, and I had a chance to spend pretty much an entire day under very extreme conditions with President George Bush, number 43. He had invited me back for lunch, and it was just an amazing day. And I'm going to get to the really quick point. As we got seated and settled, just an incredible room. It's in the West Wing of the White House, and it's so formal, and there was all this silverware. And the silverware was gold or gold-plated, I'm not sure which, but it had the White House stamped into the end of the items. And I thought, man, my kids, my grandkids, my great-grandkids. I've got to have something. I've got to have some kind of a memento from this incredible day sitting across from George Bush. I can't tell you what I had. I don't remember. And I thought, I wonder if they would notice if I put one of those spoons in my pocket. I was hoping you're really going to laugh louder than that. Thank goodness the maitre d', who was an E9 from your United States Navy, came over, snapped to attention, addressed us. The president wasn't quite there yet. And myself and our assistant chief then were giving the menus, which were incredible. And then by the end of the meal, I had a pair of George Bush cufflinks, as well as a pair of the Secret Service. So what a great day. Here was a small fire in our community. I promise it's not going to last as long as the other. This was a tiny, oh wait a minute, it was a third alarm. This happens to be a place called the Eastern Market. It was about 120 years old and had gone to a third alarm. I had been working in the District of Columbia for 14 days when this fire occurred as the fire chief. That was an important day because 14 days after you get to work, you get paid. I'm just trying to benchmark with you. Well, as you're going to see here in a second, this building was under so much duress by the fire, we moved to ladder pipes, to master streams. And I think everyone in here that wears a badge would say, the ladder pipes go up and the building's coming down. I would say without a doubt. I think we operated 4 master stream devices that day. And it was a really, really, really interesting time, needless to say. You'll see the point here in a second. Now we're going to get to move along. Well, being the 25th fire chief and wanting to stay there for a while, it sounded like, because I forgot to mention the last time that Chief Burnett introduced me, he called me the guy that couldn't keep a job. When you work in a strong mayor form of government, when the mayor goes, what happens to the chief? Hello, it's time to go. So I thought about this and I seek some advice. And you know, again, I got a couple of really important people to tell me, don't forget when the ladder pipe goes up, those doggone buildings are coming down. And that wasn't too terribly long ago. Oh, but that was Chief Burnett and Chief Kramer gave me that advice. And they said, you know what we do in our community? And I said, well, I don't. I said, would you tell me? He said, we get this huge magnetic band that goes right over top of our aerial apparatus, and it describes the fact that it's not here. So when the Washington Post showed up, ours said Montgomery County, Maryland. To summarize, being a part of a successful team ever so quickly is to remind you that success has 1,000 fathers. And I'm sorry, that's the way the quote is. It should say mothers and fathers. But failure will always be an orphan. And what that means is people want to be a part of a successful team. You have got to give 100% of the time to make sure that your team is a winner, that your team gets in there and completes the rescue or makes the fire attack or provides the correct emergency medical care while a person is en route to the hospital. It's on you, and you as a member of the organization, to do that. The next rule that I want to mention to you is we can never forget the heart of our organization, the mere reason why we exist, and that is to take care of the customer. What we want to do is to be able to wow our customers all of the time. Now, in case I went too fast, this is 12 hours later on the same day that the Eastern Market burned. And it says, you may not be able to see the fine print, more stinking ladder pipes. So now I'm wondering, after having about, maybe about 75 to 80 million dollars of fire loss in my first 2 weeks, at this point, I'm not expecting a paycheck, but I'm thinking I'm going to get the boot. But amazing thing happened. This happened to be an 1800 model building. Probably doesn't mean much to you, but it means a lot if you were Washingtonian. That is the year we became the nation's capital. It was moved from the city of Philadelphia, and we became the federal enclave until 1974. All of the records of Georgetown and the town of Washington, which DC was carved out of, lived in this building. And the curator came with tears in her eyes and said, I don't know what it will take, but I need to get as many documents out of that second floor as I can. And I'm telling you, there was no people left in the building. The brave firefighters, just like yours, took care of that. We absolutely, positively wowed the community. And yes, I had a chance to be called by Atlanta, Georgia, and I served for Mayor Shirley Franklin there, and I got to work with her for 6 years. I got there 2 years after she started, and I was so blessed to work in Atlanta. What a great experience for a DC guy, and they didn't hold it against me except when the Braves played. I get a telephone call, a cell call, and it's from a captain, a mere captain. Between me and the captain, there's division chiefs, section chiefs, battalion chiefs, assistant chiefs, deputy fire chiefs, but a captain had the audacity to call me. And he says, Chief, can you come by for dinner? I don't know about you, but I'm a curious person, and I eat 3 times a day. Thought it was a bit funnier than that. All right. So I tell him, heck yeah, when do you want me there? He says, Chief, we're going to eat in about 20 minutes, and we're having wild game. Do you mind wild game? And I thought to myself, please do not be squirrel. Please do not be squirrel. Remember, I'm pretty far down south, y'all. And I told him I'd be there as quick as I could. I couldn't wait to hear this story because although they weren't going to ask me to pay anything, I knew in my heart of hearts there was a price for having this meal. And as I sat down in the fire station and they pulled out a deer roast wrapped in bacon, I knew I was home free. And as soon as they got that out and it starts to cool, they bring out the cobbler. Remember Atlanta, what kind of cobbler? Beach cobbler, without a doubt. And I'm eyeballing that food and I can't believe how good this meal's gonna be. So we got through the mashed potatoes and the all-day cooking green beans and the collard greens and the deer roast, and then finally the captain says, I got a bone to pick with you. And I knew it was coming. And I thought, wow, okay. Captain McPherson, what's the bone? And he says, I've probably been in Atlanta now, maybe 4 weeks, 5. He says, you're deputy chief. And I'm thinking, man, I don't really know this guy's name, but he happens to be mine. I said, yes, sir. And he said, he stopped us from going out to help an 83-year-old lady. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you described the fact that we're going to be customer-centric, that we're going to take care of our customer, and we're going to wow them every time we interact. And I said, Captain, you got that exactly right. And he said, your deputy fire chief has stopped me from a commitment that I made. He said, a few shifts ago, actually the shift before, 2 days ago, he said, we had a fire on Cascade Lane. And I said, yes, sir, I listened to every word of it. And he said, it was a small fire. And I'm thinking, of course it was, because I didn't come out. I mean, come on, give me a break here, Cap. And he said, well, we were asked to check for extension in the apartment unit next to the unit we're in. And you know, Chief, there's Section 8 apartments. I'm thinking, of course, absolutely. And he says, when we broke that lock, we could not repair it. And when we left, there was one number 10 wire wrapped around the door frame, protecting an 83-year-old lady. And I told her, when I come back to work, I'm going to install that lock. I said, I got it. And he said, well, it was kind of my moment of truth. What are we going to do? And I looked him in the eye and I said, Captain, can I tell her your ladder truck? Firefighters ought to get a laugh. No, to drive the tail gun or the back of the ladder truck. And he looked at me and he said, Chief, I'll put a driver there with you. And I said, Captain. I'd worked for the fire department probably a mere 30 years at that point. You know, I'm an overnight success. 35 years later, I finally got it right. So, but anyway, great. We went there. They put in this lady's lock. While they put in her lock, she took me in the back, flipped through the pictures of her grandchildren, her great-grandchildren. We had an ice-cold Coca-Cola. Again, remember, it's Atlanta. But the whole time I was a little distracted. Remember why? Oh, the peach cobbler. Thank you for that. I'm thinking, I hope these boys got some vanilla ice cream. So I tillered the ladder truck back, and you know, it's telephone, telegraph, tele-firefighter. So the world knew that the chief had tillered that ladder truck and helped install a lock. And then we went back and we had peach cobbler with vanilla ice cream. I went home, slept like $1 million, and that same deputy chief meets me at the door. A lot of folks think he's mad. Well, it's called the new math. I've got 5 toilet plungers on my collar. All right, trumpets, speaking trumpets. He has 4. It's a rule of math. I'm the guy. So after he calmed down, we had a chat, and he did amazing after that. To be fair, he understood the fact that we were going to wow the customer, and we were going to stay on what's important. We don't exist for anybody or anything else except for the customers that we serve. Always expect the unexpected. I was minding my business in Atlanta. I was probably polishing the silver or playing, I think it's called Candy Crush, and you know I'm teasing about both of those. And this plane landed in the middle of downtown Atlanta. This is a Navajo twin engine, 2 people died, but it was described as a 737 that had gotten off the flight path. We're about 7 miles outside of Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson Airport where this happened. That's of course in the city, and it was my responsibility during that watch. So again, talk about unexpected. But what I'm going to share with you is something even more effective, more potentially harmful to you, and I'm going to go kind of quick. I got a call one day to respond to this event. Yes, I was a captain in Mesa, Arizona for a little while, for about 3 years as their training officer, just before I got promoted in Washington, came back to DC. And this huge ladder truck was struck by a dump truck at a red light. It resulted in 2 firefighters that died. That is the largest fire truck that American money can buy. There is none bigger. There's just absolutely no way you can get larger, bigger, mightier than what you see. That entire front of that ladder truck, while they were going to a training event, was ripped off. The dump truck brakes failed, it was overloaded, and honestly, it was just a horrible day. You can see some of the carnage. 33 years old, had 4 children, Jack Stevens. Carl Shoemaker took a while. He died some 15 years post the crash. He was in a vegetative state for that whole period of time. Just gives you some idea of the devastation. With that said, the lessons learned were first and foremost, drive defensive. Now, we have relatives, spouses, sons and daughters, moms and dads in this room. And I'm going to ask you to do the same thing, to drive defensively all the time, to go slower rather than faster. And a story was shared, and I think I've got a clip, not a clip, but a picture of a young lady by the name of Sandy Lee. And when I get to that, Sandy described the fact that because of her accident, she slipped off of a ladder truck. The fire trucks never got to the apartment on fire. They were taking care of her. Sometimes going slower ends up being what? Say it with me. Faster, for real. Stop at all negative intersections. If you have a red light or a stop sign, people aren't expecting a fire truck to pop up. Stop! Put your foot on the brake. Make certain that you come to a full stop. Always expect that unexpected. And again, one of the presidents that I truly admire, Ronald Reagan, the 40th president of our United States, and he said, always trust, but verify. Yeah, I like that a lot. The Boy Scout motto, please be prepared by expecting the unexpected. The 4th lesson is it's really good to be lucky, especially when you go to the casino. I mean, this is New Jersey, am I wrong? Is there a small little place, what's it called again? Atlantic City, all right. So with being lucky, here's an incident. This again is a very short clip, I promise, that we were really lucky that day. Let's see if you can pick it out. There's a gentleman in that window. The way the story goes, he was involved in some nefarious activity. Some counter nefarious folks knocked on his door, opened it up, threw gasoline into his apartment unit. You can see the results. 3rd-degree burns over 60% of his body. It took us 3 minutes to get there. It took him a minute and a half to get him out of that 8th floor window. Watch how quick they move him to the medic unit to get him to the burn unit at, I want to say DC General, I'm showing my age, at MedStar. The gentleman survived. Inexplicable, the degree of burn injury, the problems that he was presented with, But that was a really, really lucky day for him and for us doing a good job. We also had another amazing event occur. Once again, you'll have to Google this, and I'm going to just show you a few minutes if you'll allow me. This was the biggest rail disaster in Washington, D.C.'s history. We were really lucky this day, I think.
It's a great privilege for me to welcome all of you to this sanctuary, St. Mary, Mother of God, as the metropolitan Washington community gathers in prayer, seeking God's compassion following the terrible metro train tragedy.
We also welcome all the Metro employees, the first responders, the leaders of the police and firefighters who have worked so valiantly this week.
Well, I was just really proud to be in the same sanctuary with them, because this is what they do every day, and a lot of times it's not recorded on the news, but you know, they're in the business of saving lives 24/7, so it was really a privilege to sit, you know, across the aisle.
It's like any other day in the city. The rush hour is building by 4:30. It's well on its way. General heavy traffic. The metro system is at high capacity and taking people home from a hard day's work.
Councilwoman, it's 22-14, 24-11, and 17. Trucks 11 and 6, Battalion 4, Battalion Chief of Special Ops, Battalion 6, Rescue Squad 2, Ambulance 20, Medic 17, EMS 4, and the Safety Officer respond for a train derailment at the Tacoma Metro Station, 301 Cedar Street, Northwest.
There has been a deadly commuter train collision in Northeast Washington, D.C.
This is CNN breaking news.
2 D.C. Metro trains have collided within the past hour, and this occurring during rush hour.
This scene is really dramatic and it is frightening in many ways.
We stopped and then felt like an explosion. We were hit at it seemed like full speed by the train behind us.
I realized this was going to be a major incident, or at least thought it would be, by the dispatch. Not often do you have the description that the train has been derailed. One train has struck another and it's sitting atop of another train. So that was sort of the picture that was initially painted, and I knew almost instinctively it was time for me to start driving towards the metro station at Tacoma. So if you bring that up on YouTube, once again, you can say you know that guy. But without a doubt, that was a day, in my humble opinion, of great luck. Unfortunately, 9 people would perish, dozens more would be injured, several critical, but literally about 400 people were spared. 400 people were rescued. 400 people were brought to safety. And I would say when we're lucky, and please write this down, that's when our training and preparation meet opportunity. There's no luck in this business. It's all about what you know, being certified, maintaining your certifications, and continuing to raise the bar to be the best firefighter, the best emergency medical technician, the best paramedic that you can be. You've sworn to do that. The people expect that. Continue with that great work. The 5th lesson, the 5th comment I'm going to leave you with is to remind you that someone is always watching. Now, I mentioned the old executive office building, and look what's right in front of you and on fire. This is also known as the Eisenhower building. It's physically connected to our White House, and there was a fire from the sub-basement through the top of the 5th floor and through the penthouse. There was one young Marine that began rescuing people. He was a Lance Corporal, and quite frankly, the only thing he did wrong, not that he did anything wrong exactly, but was to evacuate the building from the lowest to the highest. Are you with me? I wish he'd have gone the other way. So he finds himself out on a balcony just begging for help. Any of the military members, are you from the Marines? I tell this old fire joke, and please, I hope you'll humor me, as I say he was screaming like a little girl up there on the 5th floor. And then I tell the other part of this story, but listen to me, I promise. Before we were done, that Marine was back on post, at tremendous smoke inhalation, with his weapon, standing guard, protecting our nation. I couldn't be any prouder. I made it a point to get over to talk to him, to share with him my opinion of the great work that he did. So again, somebody is always watching. I'd love to tell you that NBC News, ABC News, CBS News beat us there. Engine 16 is called the protector of the White House. They're about 5 blocks away. So they were there like a shot. And my point is, that video that you just saw came from a what? This is a really engaging group. You promised that it was going to be just an incredible group that was going to continue to react to my comments. What was that shot on? Yeah. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. We're highly visible, and if you don't believe me, look at one of the trucks going down the road, and we're highly scrutinized. Probably the only group that's scrutinized almost as much as we are the police departments. Are there any police officers in here? Any police officers? Please identify yourself. No volunteer members or police officers? None? You sure? Nobody has any weapons or ticket books or anything? No boots for my car? Nothing? My oldest child gets out of the United States Navy. He goes and takes the exact same civil service test that I took, Chief, to become a Washington, D.C. firefighter. What a proud papa. My namesake flunked. That's right, he's got scored only high enough to be a cop. All right, so much for the jokes. It's all true, and I love my son immensely. He's been with the U.S. Secret Service Uniform Division for 23 years. I couldn't be any prouder, and every time I tell that joke, he just walks away. And no matter how large or small the community, somebody's watching. I like to read a lot. I mentioned Tom Peters, In Search of Excellence. Get that book. This one's going to be a little harder. It was a sellout almost the day it was dropped. General Colin Powell, without a doubt, my most favorite government person, my most famous contemporary military person, gone way too young, made a statement in his book called My American Journey. That's a tough one to get, but I recommend paying up in the, whatever it is, Amazon or whoever that has copies. You're not going to get one off the press anymore. And he said, do the right thing when no one is watching. Wow, pretty powerful statement. But he goes on to say, the reason is somebody will always be watching, and then he gives a little vignette. He talks about living on Banana Kelly. And the reason why he called his street Banana Kelly, of course it was Kelly Street, shaped by a banana, like a banana, and it was a cul-de-sac. Colin Powell had been the first American-born person on American soil in his family. His mother and dad had come from the Caribbean islands, and to work hard was not an option. He knew he was going to do that. He was proud to do that, and I think his military record shows that. But he went back to this small grocery store on Long Island where he worked during his high school years. And he asked the gentleman running the grocery store, what was a young Colin Powell like? And he said, well, Colin, I'm thinking, General of the Army, Chief of the Joint Staff, and this guy's calling him Colin, but that's what's in the book. And he said, when you got here in the 10th grade, he said, I watched you like a hawk's eye. He said, every time you checked in, I made sure you were on time. He said, when you swept the floors, I made sure you did it correctly. And he said, Colin Powell, when you took out the trash, I watched you take it out to the trash cans. He said, you know, kids that had worked for me before would put alcohol, unused, ready to go, if you will, in the trash, put it in the trash cans outside, and come back at night and rob me blind. And he said, do you remember your 11th year here? He says, well, I'm getting the quotes from you, please tell me. And he said, when you came back in the summer of your junior high school year, he said, do you remember operating the cash register? You were our cashier. He said, I do. And he said, now, you probably think that mirror under the staircase was for you to straighten up your tie. Remember, this is in the 50s. Everybody had on a tie or square away his apron. And he said, no. He said, I watched you. Every time you hit that cash register button to open, you had your hand in our family's till. I couldn't do anything but make sure that you were being honest. And then he went on to say, General Powell, do you remember your senior year? He said, yeah. He said, well, my family took a 1-week vacation and you ran the business. Oh, what does that represent, folks? Please help me this time. There was total trust because he did the right thing, and especially when he didn't realize that anybody was watching, although they were. I find myself, I've taught in 45 of our 50 states. I'm hoping to knock out those other ones before I retire. I've been to 8 Canadian provinces out of 10. To be honest, I've not been to any 3 of the territories, but I hope to get there as well. And I'm going to Alaska. Who's been to Alaska? They've had me out there 3 times. So I get from Washington, D.C. to Seattle, and I'm thinking, this isn't so bad. It's about over. Well, that last ride is about just as long. And the plane, it's Alaskan Airlines. And it seems like it would never end. And I'm looking, every piece of paper I brought along, I've written on now. I write a lot, you can probably tell. I like to read. And there's nothing left to read or write. We've got about 2 more hours with this 110 mile an hour nose wind coming right at us. So I'm digging in the seat back pocket. I know that it's a Delta partner. There's a Delta magazine. And I run across the Wall Street Journal. There's probably nothing else in this life that would have caused me to read a Wall Street Journal, but I did. Damn, not even a smile. Am I allowed to say damn in here? Holy smoly, folks, what a tight crowd. So I grabbed that newspaper, and lo and behold, there was an article about how many times your face every day lights up a camera. And at the time, it was like 38 or 39 times per day, the average American citizen. And if you lived in a rural community, a little less. And if you lived in a metropolitan community, probably a lot more. How many folks in this room think you've been captured on a closed circuit television today? How many, please? Man, let me try this. How many people now think that they've been? Man, I would hope everybody would put up your hands, but I know you're not going to humor me for whatever reason. All right, so I am from D.C., and we do beat both the Devils and the Flyers. It's true, it's true. But I think General Powell made an impactful statement that I will never forget, and I love it. Do the right thing when no one is watching, and never forget the fact there's always somebody watching. There's always somebody watching. And again, every bit of your service delivery will make it to the news. Let me do a quick summary, and this is the handout. So I hope you got one, but please, please, please be a part of a winning team. And the way you do that is to do your best every day, all of the time. Try to wow our customers. I can tell you, as a brand new firefighter a very long time ago, the customer was the fire or the automobile accident or the hazmat out of the can. And it takes you a while to realize that's important, but nowhere near as important as the customer, the flesh and bone, the human. Always expect the unexpected. I know that sounds a little corny and a little Boy Scoutish or Girl Scoutish or both, and I'm okay with that because it is really, really important. Who would have ever thought that I would have been able to respond to a train crash involving 2 trains, 9 people were killed, and 1 train actually was atop the other when it came to rest. Don't forget that luck is when training and preparation meets opportunity. You gotta be ready. You gotta be prepared. And keep in mind, the whole world is watching. Let me just say a sincere thanks. What an honor it is to be here for you. What a great day for your service to recognize what you do. And please, 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 let's be safe out there. And this is where you give a resounding round of applause.